to the Kent Lapp Podcast.
So at the time, my brother, who's, like I said, 11 years older, was attending the University of South Carolina as an engineering student. And so he told her, why don't you send him here so he can learn English? And so he wrote a letter saying, hey, send my brother, he can learn English, blah, 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 blah. And we took that letter to the U.S. Embassy in Abu Dhabi.
The letter is from who again? Your brother?
My brother, just an invitation.
Oh, okay.
You know, and we went to the embassy, and I don't know what kind of pre-work my mom had done before, but I know she was on the phone a lot. And we go into this room that was probably a little bit bigger than this space, not much, a little bit. And I bet there were 50 people in there, just like packed like sardines, waiting to. There's a little window, and everybody wants to get a visa to America. And lo and behold, we get called. Just like looking around, like, wow. So we'll go back, and this office, really fancy office, the ambassador's office, you know. But it's not the ambassador there. It's like some kind of counselor that works for him or whatever.
And you're at this point, you're in the United Arab Emirates?
Emirates, Abu Dhabi.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So we drove. We had to drive from Dubai to Abu Dhabi, long drive in the desert.
Okay.
And he's sitting like where you are. I'm sitting over here. My mom's sitting over here. My dad's sitting over here. He's talking to him. I don't know what they're saying because my mom doesn't know English, but she does know some French. Maybe that's what she was. I don't remember. And so, you know, we stand up and he puts his hand, the counselor puts his hand on my back and pats me on the back. Right? And I don't know what was going on. So I looked over at my mom and said, what's going on? She said, he's saying, have a good life in America. Like, doesn't he know that he's just giving me a 90-day visa? And she nodded. You know, of course, she knew then. He knew that I'll be able to stay because we're Lebanese and because of the war situation. And I didn't know. I was just going to go see my brother, you know. I didn't have no idea. And so I didn't quite get the gravity of the situation till, you know, she packs my clothes and we get all... We had to do this twice because the first time I didn't get to go for some reason. I don't understand. But get clothes, new clothes, all, well, I don't know. And then we go to the airport. I don't know if I can do that. So we go to the airport, and my mom tells me, you know, tells me goodbye, and you know, she says, "Go," and she says, "Don't look back." Of course, you know, when you're, I guess 13 at the time, if somebody tells you not to look back, you don't look back.
Right.
So I kept looking forward till the last chance. I knew I was going to make a left and, you know, be gone. Because I was at a corner. So I looked back. Sorry. And she had fainted into my dad's arms. I saw her. And so it's very traumatic. So, and that was that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Her youngest son, her oldest son's already in America.
Yeah.
Her youngest son just got a 90-day visa, but she knew that he's going to go to America and stay in America. Puts him on a plane and says goodbye. Man.
Yeah.
Wow. Sounds like you have great parents.
Well, the Lebanese, not just the Maronite Christians, but certainly I'm well familiar with the Lebanese Maronite Christian story. You know, they came out of Syria and settled into Lebanon to escape persecution, and they settled very mountainous parts of Lebanon so that they would not be easily accessible. But you know, the Ottomans and you know, Muslim rule, whatever, and then there's other sects in Lebanon too that you know, escape from where they are, and so they're very persistent people that in order to survive, you have to be a hard worker. I went to a town not last time, but a couple of times, a few years ago when we visited. We went to this town, and it's really steep hills, and they built these terrace walls into the mountains, and then they have flat dirt, right? It's because you can't plant anything in a steep hill
Right.
like this, right? And the guy was telling us that after from thousands of years ago when they used all the cedar trees in Lebanon to build ships and firewood and whatever, a lot of the soil in these steep areas would erode and be gone. But these people didn't have a choice. They couldn't go live somewhere that was they had to make the best of what they had. So they would break the rocks of the mountain and build these walls. And they would go down into the valley with a donkey and their kids or whatever, and they would fill up buckets of dirt because all the dirt was in the valley because of the erosion washed it out. And they would scale up the mountains and fill up these walls that were 4 or 5 feet, 6 feet tall with dirt. And I was like, well, how long does that take? And he goes, well, they worked on it multi-generationally.
Oh, my goodness!
So you started it, but your grandkids got to finish it.
You were getting emotional talking about leaving your mom and dad, which is obviously understandable. Why is that? Is it because of the traumatic experience, or is it because you loved your mom and your dad very much, and you're 13, you're leaving them? What's behind that emotion?
Well, it's just there's no best option. I mean, what would be the emotion if you left your kids? I mean,
I can't imagine.
For one is that my mom is gone, so she never quite. I don't think my mom spent 5 years of her life with her kids in under her roof. And that's pretty traumatic for a parent.
Yeah.
And yet to the child too. It's more normal to actually grow up to be so you feel like you're denied a childhood of sorts. You have to grow up really fast, and sometimes you do it very sloppily, but you have no choice. You have to grow up and you have to make something out of your life because you were given a chance and a lot of other people weren't. So definitely there's consequence to everybody's life that's involved. Whenever there's war, when there's separation, when there's a loss, you would think like, gosh, this would all resolve and 10 years down the road we'll be family again, but decades go by.
You don't get those years back. You don't get your childhood back.
In her last 20 years her health was compromised, so she couldn't come here. The last trip she came here and stayed with me quite a while. It was very stressful for her.
Okay.
She had surgery right after because she had the underlying condition going on, and that pretty much after the surgery she couldn't leave Lebanon. She wasn't very mobile. She could get around very slowly and so on. So it was, and that's a lot of that was really stress in her life that causes stress is.
Stress is a huge killer.
Absolutely.
What was her name?
Siham.
Okay.
Siham Rashid Busamra.
Okay. And what's your dad's name?
Joseph Isaiah Busamra.
Okay. Wonderful. How do you? So I'm sure that experience obviously has sort of informed and affected your entire life leading up to now. How does it affect you now? Like, do you feel a sense of independence? Can't trust anyone? Do you feel like you always have to? I'm just kind of curious how something that I know very few people that have went through something that traumatic, and it's going to affect you the rest of your life, good, bad, or indifferent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But how do you feel like that affects you now?
So I noticed these things about myself and how I react to different things and whether that's actually good or bad or whatever. But anytime my instincts for most of my life used to be that anytime, anywhere in the world, there was somebody yelling for help before they were being abused, I felt like it's incumbent on us to get involved and help them because they're human beings, and we should settle every wrong. We should make it right because we have the power to do so, and if you have the power to do so, then you have an obligation to do so. That is, for better or for worse, that is embedded in my DNA, you know. But I've also grown older and wiser and realized that you have to pick your battles in life. You can't be like that every time, every place. You know, there's going to be, so
You can't save everybody.
And sometimes trying to save everybody, you end up being the bad guy in the situation. We get United States. I say we get States. We get we get involved in times with fully good intentions, but whether it's because who we back, doesn't adopt the fairness or treats the people well after we leave or during whatever, then we're blamed for the sins of others, even though And now I don't know how responsible we are for that, but I know the responsibility is not zero. I don't know if we can totally be blamed for that, because at some point people have to fix their own governments, their own societies, and you just can't do it all for people. But you can definitely keep some bad guys at bay. We certainly did it with Hitler, thank God. So you are hypersensitive to people's dilemmas, and you're also very in tune with the manipulation of governments and propaganda. Because you see it in multiple countries. So you see your own government doing it, you see their government doing it, you see how the Venezuelans do it, you see how the Russians do it. I think a lot of us are a little bit naive to that, but now I think maybe waking up to it a little bit with the internet and Facebook. That's what I think is so ironic about the whole thing about Russian interference or whatever. But governments have been trying to infiltrate and do things like that for centuries. Facebook is just another medium.
Right.
There's nothing new about that.